Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Michael Booker. I am a parishioner at St. Francis Episcopal Church in Eureka, and I am a deputy to General Convention for the Diocese of Missouri. I appreciate the honor of being given this opportunity to be a deputy at General Convention. This will be my fourth time at General Convention. And the reason I'm making this recording is to help you understand how to look up information about what's coming up. General Convention, the 81st General Convention of the Episcopal Church, is going to be meeting in Louisville, Kentucky at the end of June. The first legislative day is the 23rd, and the last legislative day is the 28th. This is a somewhat shortened schedule for General Convention compared to years past. We had a very short one in Baltimore in 22, and that was due to COVID issues. We kept that as short as we possibly could to get business done. We're trying out a kind of hybrid format right now. So historically, what would happen is that at General Convention, people would go there, the committees would form, we would talk about legislation, we'd have lots of meetings, eventually get to bring legislation to the floor and vote on it, both in the House of Deputies and in the House of Bishops. And the whole thing would take about a week and a half. But this was quite demanding. And one of the things that we've decided to do to make this a bit more accessible to people is to allow people from across the Episcopal Church, which of course is not just in the United States, but across the world in the Episcopal Church, to participate by having hearings for a lot of this legislation that's going to be out there that you can participate in, either attend to observe or to offer testimony. These are interesting opportunities which historically would have required you to go to the city of General Convention. Now, I do recommend that if you at all have the opportunity to go down to Kentucky at the end of June, you do so. It is really interesting to see this. You probably have no idea just how big we are in the Episcopal Church, and it's an amazing experience. I did my first one in Indianapolis because that was close. This is about the same distance, and I will tell you that spending a couple of days there is really worth your time. But if you're interested in watching from a distance and keeping an eye on what's going on, I'm going to show you how to see what legislation is going to be discussed, what's going to be going onto the floor for consideration. Now, one of the most important things we'll be doing is having an election related to the presiding bishop, primarily a function of the House of Bishops, but the House of Deputies get to vote, weigh in on the matter too. But there are lots of pieces, hundreds of pieces of legislation that are being considered for the church. And so I'm going to show you where to find that, to look it up, and to, if you want to, attend hearings about it. So let's go to screen share. Now you don't have to look at me anymore. You can look at my screen. So the place we're going to spend our time today is in the virtual binder, the vBinder. And the address in the upper left-hand corner for this is www.vbinder.net, one word for vBinder. That's not a word that's used for much of anything else. You can probably just put vBinder in your search engine and get it immediately. This is where we have public information available about legislation that's being considered. So if you want to try it the hard way, you would go to this button here labeled resolutions and just click on it. And you will see, starting with A001, General Convention Daily Agenda, that's the first piece of legislation. We have to have some dispatch resolutions agreed to when we get started. And it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. And you see here, it goes to page 11 under D025. That is at the moment how much legislation we have. More pieces of legislation are being submitted as I speak. Now, it's quite unlikely that you will want to read through all the hundreds of pieces of legislation, but there might be some issues that you have particular concerns or interest in. Now, for me, the area of my concern is ecumenical relations, because I'm on Legislative Committee 14, ecumenical and interreligious relations. And so I can punch in the search bar, ecumenical, and I can see all the legislation that has to do with ecumenical issues. Now, all of it is in the hands of Committee 14. So this one here, A009, about the Episcopal Church and the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Bavaria, that goes to Committee 14. But the one at the bottom on Israel's apartheid goes to Committee 6, Social Justice and International Policy. And the one above it, A041, is going to Committee 3, Governance and Structure. So this is a way to look up different kinds of issues that you may have an interest in. You can look specifically by these committees, or you can also then look for keywords that are things that matter to you. And so you will decide what areas that you're very curious about. So we have a number of them. I'm going to see here, we've got some things about Israel and Palestine. So if I push this in, you may see, I'm suspecting that there are a number of different resolutions coming from different places having to do with responsible travel in the Holy Land, resolving the conflict. And sometimes these are redundant. Sometimes 3 different groups will put in 3 different pieces of similar legislation, and it falls to these committees, whether it's Committee 6 here, most of these are Committee 6, Social Justice and International Policy, to have hearings about these to decide if they need to be smushed together, if they need to be edited, if there's any technical problems or concerns about them. And those then go to the floor of the House of Deputies and the House of Bishops so that they can be voted on. So let's say that I am interested in Swords into Plowshares about rebuilding Gaza, and I want to see it. I hit the view button, and this is the text of the resolution talking about hospitals, schools, universities, and libraries. And it tells me what committee has got it. It tells me who proposed it, who's endorsed it. And this tells me about the legislation here. Now, D comes from a deputy has put this in. Most of the resolutions you're going to see at this point are A resolutions, and those are put in by the various standing committees and standing bodies within the church. Usually, if it's got an A in front of it, that means an awful lot of time and effort has gone into crafting this legislation, and it's got a lot of complex logic behind it. There's been a thorough review as to how it interacts with Constitution and canons, and so these are the different sorts of things that are going to be resolutions across the church. So that's how you look and see if there is a resolution. So let's pick a different topic here. I saw one down here about establish a standing commission on the care of creation and environmental racism. So let's say that that's an issue that I find compelling. I go click on the view button and it says view this, and I find that I'm looking at what they're proposing. I'm looking at the fact that they want some money behind it. And let's say I have strong feelings about this. I think this is a great idea. I think it's a terrible idea. You can, in addition to keeping track of what's going on here, you can give testimony to the appropriate committee, in this case, governance and structure. So how is it that I'm going to get the opportunity to weigh in on an issue that concerns me? Well, if I go back to the main page for Virtual Binder, remember we had resolutions. That's where we were looking all these up. There's one here that says legislative committee meetings. And I click on that, and what I see here presented in a different format are all these resolutions that are going to be considered by, for instance, environmental stewardship and care of creation. And this tells me it's an open hearing on May 7th, on Tuesday, May 7th. It's going to start at 7:30 in the evening Eastern Daylight Time. I will tell you, being on a committee where we have to schedule these, it's a challenge because sometimes we have people who want to weigh in who are from the convocation in Europe, and sometimes we have people who want to weigh in who are in Taiwan. Those are all members of the Episcopal Church, and they are in wildly different time zones than the rest of us. So you can have an open hearing. So I can register. May 7th is a week off when I'm recording this, and I can register to be at this, and I can either send written testimony, I can speak, or I can just watch it. So here's A22, A084, and B002. The only things they are taking testimony on are those 3 pieces of legislation. So A22 is the Anglican Communion Forest Initiative, because we all like trees. A084 is Join the Communion Forest Initiative. That sounds familiar. And then B002, Build Eco-Region Creation Networks for Crucial Impact. You can see those are related issues and they're clustered together for that specific reason. So I'm curious about this. Maybe I'm really into trees. Okay. We all love trees. So I've got a button over here that says more info. And if I click on that, this will allow me at the upper right hand corner to register to attend a meeting. And that's the button that I am going to click if I want to register to attend, which includes both attending the meeting, which is a virtual meeting. It's going to be on Zoom, and they'll send me the link to that meeting, or to offer testimony. I can get on their calendar for offering testimony. And I also have the option to send in written testimony. Let's say that I'm worried there's going to be a lot of people who want to talk about trees and I might not get to say a whole lot. I can create a written document and submit that as well. These are all options you have as people in the Episcopal Church. I will say for some of our ecumenical meetings, we've had people come in and they've are not even Episcopalians. They're say in the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, but we have a resolution that relates to them and they're able to offer testimony because we want to be as well informed as we possibly can be. So I've showed you how to look up the legislation. I've shown you how to find where they have meetings scheduled. Again, just to review, resolutions here on the right-hand corner under vBinder, legislative committee meetings here as the second tile. You've got other things like committee reports and daily journals. There's plenty of other things to read. Uh, and these are things that are going to matter. Some of this calendar stuff isn't going to be active yet, right? You click on calendars and nothing's going on because we're not in legislative meetings yet. That's not going to happen until the end of June. There will be hearings until June 8th. So we still have the whole month of May to be talking about these items before we get there. We will also, if necessary, have some live hearings in Kentucky, but that's not firmly resolved at this point. Most of the legislation is going to be packed up and ready to go by the time that everybody's traveling out to Kentucky. So I am going to stop the share. If you have any questions about this, there is a process for submitting resolutions. It's wildly complicated, but if you are curious about something, if you look at this list and say, hey, I want a resolution about Iceland because I'm from Iceland and I really care about Iceland and there's nothing in here about Iceland. You can reach out to me personally, mbooker at sbcglobal.net, Michael Booker, mbooker at sbcglobal.net. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions you might have about this. There is a process. I will tell you, having worked on legislation, none of this is simple. And if you have something you would like to do, it needs to get into the pipeline very quickly. That's not to say it can't be done, but to say that there is some complexity to this process that needs to be honored because we want to make good decisions for the well-being of the Episcopal Church. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you listening to my presentation. Have a lovely day.